you again for being here at the Q&A webinar. So this is a recorded webinar. What I'm doing is doing a recording so that this can be accessed at any point, and I'll be sending a YouTube recording out after this. So any questions that you have, feel free to use the chat pane to ask them. So one question that we do have here is, while taking the online class, I noticed that my screen does not have the top full menu bar. We had mentioned this during the orientation session, but the way that the course is loaded is the very top menu bar is cut off. So that you don't miss out on any information, what we have done is we sent you a document with menus all the way across the top. It's a PDF document so that you can take a look at all the different menus and what's there, and so you won't miss out on any information. So this is a document that was sent the first day of the program, so you can download and access this at any time. And you're welcome. That is a question I think I've been asked at every session today, so I'm glad that you did ask it. So I think I'll start out by giving some information, just reviewing some info about the certification exam and what you can expect from both training and testing. So this training is on QuickBooks 2012. The Master in QuickBooks Level 1 course does cover QuickBooks 2012. So the exam that you're taking is also a 2012 exam. It is a multiple choice exam. It's 50 minutes long and consists of 50 questions. In order to pass the exam, you have to get a 700 out of 1,000, which is like a 70%. So in order to qualify for the exam, you must take all the training and pass in metrics learning with an 80% or higher. The first thing you need to pass is the Master in QuickBooks Level 1 course. So by today, you should have completed one half of this course, approximately 6 hours or day 1 of training. After this, you will move on to QuickBooks Pro 2009, Getting Started. This activity is through Skillsoft. It's a 3-hour Skillsoft course. And whereas with the Master in QuickBooks Level 1 course, there's only a lecture, so you don't get any hands-on quizzes or tests, you will have hands-on quizzes and tests with the 2009 course. It's meant to kind of reinforce what you've learned, and so the lecture really sets you up for the training, and the QuickBooks Pro 2009 Getting Started kind of reinforces it. We've been asked by people, why 2009? The training is mainly for 2012. A couple of different reasons. So we find that most employers have between 2009 and 2012 for QuickBooks, the software itself. In addition, there are not too many differences between the software versions. So we do want to make sure that you get lecture, hands-on training, and later practice test questions so all our bases are covered. So you have the 2009 access for that reason. After you finish the QuickBooks Pro 2009 course, you will take the QuickBooks Pro 2012 and QuickBooks Pro 2011 activities. These are proven assessments. What they do is they basically have practice test questions that are multiple choice, just like the exam. So you'll get some practice with the exam, the types of questions and verbiage in the test itself. So after you take that, you will get access to what's called QuizStar practice tests. So what we've done is we've taken practice questions that are very much like what you get on the certification exam, and we created 2 practice tests that you can go through. They're 50-minute or 50 multiple choice questions, just like the exam, so you kind of get that times 2. Then, once you complete all training, you will qualify for the certification exam. You'll receive an automated voucher to your email, and in addition to that voucher, it comes with 3 practice tests that very closely replicate the certification exam itself. So the practice tests are through Certiport, as is the testing. It's really helpful. It's kind of like having 3 practice tries at the real shot. So I think that between the training that you're taking, the practice material available, you'll feel very well prepared for the exam. So for those of you who are not potentially done with one half the Master in QuickBooks Level 1 course, it's all right. You'll have time to catch up. We just ask that you complete all program training by August 19th, because on August 20th will be our final review webinar. We'll be back on the line here to address any questions that you have going into the certification exam. So, you know, this training is really self-paced. You're able to kind of make it your own, but we just ask that you have all training done by the specified dates here. You'll want to have all of the Master in QuickBooks done by this time next week, so day 2 of training, and then all other training done by 19th into the 20th. So going off of that, for those of you who have finished the first half of Mastering QuickBooks Level 1, did you access the review video that I had sent in the webinar for this session? And if so, did you find it helpful? Great, we have a yes. All right, good. So we have a couple of positive responses, which is good. So the Mastering QuickBooks Level 1, that is 12 hours worth of training. What I tried, or 6, yeah. So the first half is 6 hours, though. So what I tried to do was condense 6 hours worth of information into about 15 minutes worth of video. So I touched upon points that were on the exam objectives, kind of went through specifics and tried to guide you toward what's important going into the certification exam. So for those of you who did access it, or for those of you who did not, we will have a day 2 version that will go out to you for our final review webinar that you can also go through. It's about 20 minutes long, and again, we try and focus upon the points that you'll really want to know for the exam itself. Great question. Is it available after this webinar? Correct. It will be. So I'm recording this webinar. In addition, the review video I mentioned is on YouTube, so I can send a link of that in addition to the link for this recorded webinar to you after this session here. Okay. We have info here on using QuickBooks web version. It's quite different than the course. I'm glad and then that I answered the question about the hands-on. So again, with this program, you will not need to buy any software. Everything is online based. I've used QuickBooks Web. I had a trial of it just to kind of see what it was like, how it compared, and it is different. QuickBooks Web. There are some similarities, but it is definitely a different interface. So again, you won't need to buy any software to be active with this, and the exam is multiple choice, so it's not asking you to click here, click there, click everywhere. It's more of the concepts and the analytics behind QuickBooks itself. So I think that you'll find the practice helpful. And to both of you who ask questions, you're welcome. We have a comment here. I heard QuickBooks automatically updated their system from 2012 to 2014. Will what we learned still be valid to use? I have not heard this. Actually, for instance, we are a small business and we use QuickBooks 2010. A lot of businesses don't update their QuickBooks because it works and there is an additional cost to update between versions. So I haven't heard this. I'm not familiar with the QuickBooks 2014 interface. I do know that the exam is different for the certification, but I think that what you will have learned is definitely still valid to use because, again, from my experience, there really isn't big of differences between the versions of QuickBooks, and employers do have a variety of them. So again, this webinar, I just want to give you some information, but it's going to be largely question-driven. So anything you got, don't hesitate to ask. No question is too small or too large. Another point with the exam, I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, you find out on the spot if you pass. So it's about a 1 or 2 minute wait, which sounds short, but that can feel long. And if you don't pass the certification exam the first time, you do have a retake with the voucher that you get. So you're able to retake the exam anytime within a 30-day period. Also, if you're not to pass the first time, we can kind of review or give you some review materials that you can access to go into the different areas you'd like to practice. We have a question here. Can you repeat when you do the first practice test? So the practice test that you get through Certiport, you'll receive access to that as soon as you complete all of your training in metrics learning. But the practice that you are taking through metrics, you can access at any time. We just ask that you have all training done by that August 19th date. We have another great question here. Can we use our notes while taking the exam? The answer to that is no. It's a proctored exam. You'll go into the Work to Future site and actually take it. So along with that, you are not able to have any recording devices, pen, paper, anything like that to be able to make notes. So it's not open book, unfortunately. Oh, I'm sorry, Ophelia, I did not see your second question here. The practice test, we have a question here, does it show what you need to study further? That is a great question. So when you take the practice test through Certiport, at the end you'll get a breakdown of each of the different topics on the exam. So it will give you a percentage. For instance, if you scored low in reports, which I did initially, it'll give you a percentage. So that way you'll know which area you want to practice going forward into the real thing. And the exam itself, too, does do that. So at the end, you'll receive a score, and then again, a breakdown of the different percentages of how you scored on each section. And a question we had going off of that earlier was, am I able to go back into metrics and review? You are absolutely able to go back into the metrics system and review any of the training, whether it's in the Master in QuickBooks course or any other training. Another question we had, too, I'll just kind of keep firing them off here. With going back into reviewing the Master in QuickBooks, those bubbles, if it's gray, you haven't started, it's yellow if you have started, it's green if you completed. You'll want all the different bubbles to list green in order to complete the course. I know that a couple people had issues with Internet Explorer, and we had them use Chrome, which they've been able to use. Sometimes with Google Chrome, those bubbles don't fill in. So if that happens, just continue on in the course and let us know at the very end when you're finished, and we can adjust accordingly. We have a note about Firefox, too. Firefox is not fully compatible with metrics, so you might find that the bubbles don't record. But if you did have trouble with Internet Explorer and you're in training, you can go ahead and use it. But again, I guess our order of preference for PCs would be Internet Explorer, followed by Chrome, followed by Firefox. But I'm glad that you're able to find success with that. Do you have any questions keep them coming? Another point that I made earlier, too, is if you find yourself, struggling in a specific section, a couple of things you can refer to. The Day 1 and Day 2 manuals for Mastering QuickBooks are very helpful. So what you can do with the Mastering QuickBooks Day 1 and Day 2 manuals is it's basically a training guideline for what you're learning. So Some people chose to print. I chose to make notes by myself and keep the manual on my computer. This is because you can do Control F or Control Find to find specific topics or areas that you have questions from. So another thing, too, is QuickBooks support site. QuickBooks has a support site with different topics. You can do a search for specific topics. And I found this very helpful for areas that I wasn't necessarily too sure in. I would, search the topic. Even through Google, you could do it. And it will give you step-by-step. It'll give you tutorials and visuals and things like that. So we have a question related to QuickBooks Web. Again, I'm not familiar with this, so I'm unable to answer that. QuickBooks Pro and Premier is what the test will be on, and QuickBooks Pro is the training. So my suggestion is that you could go to the QuickBooks support site and take a look into that. Good question here. From other webinars, will we see Q&A from those? So each of these webinars, the Q&A ones, have been about 45 minutes in length. So I'm not going to be sending the links out to all of those, but what I'm making sure to do is I'm making sure to either kind of spit out the different topics that there were questions on earlier, or, you have a lot of the same questions as people too, so that's a good thing, I think. But also, if you think of anything after this webinar today, you can feel free to shoot us an email. Keep the questions coming. We have a comment here. I've never used Q&A, and I was told it would be harder for me to pass. I think that, QuickBooks, sorry. I've never used QuickBooks, and I was told it would be harder for me to pass. My personal experience, so I've worked with people throughout New York State who, ranging from people who have experience in QuickBooks to those with zero experience. Personally, I have a deal of experience when I did this. I've also seen people who haven't had experience with QuickBooks go through this training and then pass the certification exam. What the training is really meant to do is bring you from the very basics all the way through. So between the training and the types of practice that we give you, I think you should feel well prepared. Personally, I think that you should be good. And as program mentors, myself and Liz and also our coworker Nikki, we have all done the same exact training as you. So we've taken the training, we have gone through all the different, the lecture and the quizzes and the tests, and we know exactly how it feels to sit there and wonder if you passed the certification exam or not. So in addition to this practice, that's what we serve our purpose for here, is to help you through the process. Another question we didn't get, but I'll bring this up because I know people have asked in the past. So you find out when you pass the certification exam on the spot, and then it's a 1 to 2 week period between when you pass and when you receive a hard copy of the credential in the mail. But other people, myself included, have immediately added to their resumes or their LinkedIn Intuit QuickBooks certified user, which you're able to do because you do gain that credential once you pass the exam. All right, I'll give it a couple more minutes for questions unless they start pouring in. Not a question, but a comment. A couple of things that I found helpful when I was preparing were, I sent the exam objectives document. So basically what that does is it lists the different topics in QuickBooks and what you'll be tested on for the exam. That is directly from Certiport's site, and that is so great to be able to refer to. In all the recorded review videos, I refer to the day 1, day 2 manuals as far as this objectives document, because it's almost like a cheat sheet about what's on the exam itself. So it's definitely a great thing to have. All right, I'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes. Continue asking, and if something comes to mind after this, you can feel free to shoot us an email as well. All right, give it 1 more minute here. All right, it seems like there's no more questions here. So again, thank you all so much for your time today and being on today's call. If you do have any further questions, feel free to shoot us an email, and we look forward to working with you through this program to help you getting this certification. So have a great rest of the afternoon, everyone. All right, goodbye.